The Fall Classic is here at Major League Baseball, and probably a lot of fans couldn't be happier. Uh, Here, we're going to address that and much more on Hitting with Holly here on Man on Second. Joe Frisaro with Todd Hollandsworth. And we're going to get into a lot today. We're going to start off with the World Series. We're going to, people hang on with us because we've added these, breaking down the videos of high school players and discussing the grassroots. But we're going to get into that with some really good stuff with Todd Hollandsworth. But we're going to start right off with the main event, the Fall Classic. And on paper, it is. I mean, it is. I guess you had the two best teams in the best leagues. And it just so happened, Todd Hollandsworth, that those two teams happen to be the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the matchup Major League Baseball would love to have every year, but we haven't had it in almost 3.5, 4 decades. But just kind of your thoughts. Fall Classics here. What are you seeing, buddy?
Well, I'm very excited. I mean, who wouldn't be? This is what baseball has become, and I think that there's some positives to that, but I also think there's some negatives to it as well. And I think it's kind of unfortunate that we have gotten that way to our sport, where it's just so obvious that we're screaming and hoping every year for the heavyweights to get to the final, and that's what you're going to get this year. And I mean, it's for obvious reasons, whether you want to go, die in listen. My name's associated with the Dodgers. I mean, I grew up a Dodger. I am a Dodger. I spent well over 10 years with the organization, and they gave me my start. I am forever grateful, and I love the Los Angeles Dodgers. So don't ask me who I'm rooting for. I think the answer is pretty obvious. But with that being said, that's where we're at, right? So you've got the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't think anybody's surprised. You got the Yankees. I don't think anybody's surprised, maybe a little bit, just because of the year that baseball, really kind of became, and we saw it here in the postseason, Joe. Both of these teams looked very dominant and convincing at times, like they're the best team in the American League. This is the best team in the National League. But they also had their moments where, the starting pitching looked a little too thin. You wondered if they were going to hit enough. And, there was probably some issues that, maybe they weren't going to get over, but obviously both teams did. Both have great managers, and Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone. You've got not only the two heavyweights in baseball, but you also have the two heavyweight stars in baseball, with Shohei Ohtani and obviously, we'll call it the two-headed monster just to be fair, but between Juan Soto and Aaron Judge with the Yankees. But I think Aaron Judge, just in stature, right? We're just talking the big guys.
Yeah.
6'5" and over conversation, and that's who these two guys are. So listen, baseball fans are excited. I think that Major League Baseball is very excited because people are going to watch. People are going to watch around the world. People are going to watch overseas. You're going to see big numbers in a lot of different ways. And as I said to you right before we came on air, that's weird to me, but it's not, just because it's always been a conversation for 30 years. Is Major League Baseball's viewership, and it's like, why is that an issue? But it always has been, and that's kind of where we're at. And we're always like, people are going to watch. People are going to watch. In our World Series in 2003, we were talking about it amongst ourselves. Where we is the Marlins, the surprise team in 2003. Going to draw enough to satisfy, everybody. We didn't really care. We wanted to win a World Series, but that's the stuff that we talk about in our sport.
Yeah, and it's funny. We'll go back quickly to 2003 because obviously I was covering the Marlins. It was my second year at MLB.com covering the Marlins, and it just even internally working for Major League Baseball's website, they didn't want us there. They did not want the Miami or the Florida Marlins then there, and it was clear. And I'm like, hey, for my career, I want this. And the guys I'm covering and my market, I certainly want it. And I didn't care if they got mad that the Cubs didn't get there. And, if it meant, everyone waiting another decade and then just being in New York, going to the bar after that, just hearing the disdain for the Marlins by the Yankee fans, like, how did this happen? And this is terrible for baseball and all this other stuff. And you don't want a sport to be like that, Right. We heard it last year with Arizona and Texas. Oh, the wild cards. Oh, the wild cards are the favorites now to go. They're the hot teams. Well, that's all dispelled 1 year later because the two teams with the layoffs had the best records and are in the World Series. You still have to perform. And what we've done is we've diminished diminished. Oh, well, you shouldn't have been in. Well, if they shouldn't be in, then eliminate them, right? I mean, if it's
Well, I
that
think the
simple,
question, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
no.
Joe, but I think that the powers that be, the governing body, I think that, I think a lot of times we listen a little bit too much to that noise, to that voice that says, okay, well, we've got to formulate the ideal scenario so that we're at our best and we're maximizing our profit margin, and we're getting the most views. For that to be the case, like, because I heard you say it, and I remember hearing, the things that kind of came out of it. Because, what's that, when two wild card teams get to the World Series, it was like, okay, well, maybe our wild card system's wrong. We need to fix it. We got to do something different if our two wild card teams are ending up in the World Series. And, from year to year, that's not really how it works. And sometimes you just get hot at the right time. I mean, I know the secret sauce for the World Series just because I've watched it my whole life and I've experienced it. But if you've got a good team and you're playing great baseball in September and you carried it over into the postseason and you don't get too many off days, you're a dangerous team. And you're probably one of the teams I would absolutely pick to win a World Series, because that's our sport. That's how our game works. It's how good are you at the right time? And that's what our sport ultimately is and always has been. But with that being said, both of these teams have withstood some challenges, have really stepped up in their moments, and found their heroes. And I think what's been good, and I think Dodger fans and certainly Yankee fans would agree with us on both of this, is that their star players, which you get it. Those are the guys you want to see come through in the moments, did. And I think that's part of the key ingredient to the excitement behind this. So I hope it doesn't disappoint. I don't think that it will, just because you have two great teams. And I also think it's going to be a lengthy series, because I don't think one team is so dominant and one team can get so hot. I would really be surprised if one team snowballs the other. But if it were to be a team snowballing, I think it would be the Dodgers over the Yankees in that matter.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. For probably since the end of the year, when Mookie came back and was starting to, I just kind of sensed. I know the Mets got super hot, and then the Padres were super hot, but I just kind of sensed the Dodgers were going to win the World Series. Just kind of that they just kind of looked to me like the best team out there,
Mm-hmm.
and so I obviously wouldn't be shocked if that's as someone who's covered. I'd be really happy for Miguel Rojas and the people I dealt with and know on the Dodger system, and there are people in their organization I've been friends with for 30 years as well. But then, there's a part of me that really wants Stanton to get that ring to really cement his legacy. And I'm real happy he was the ALCS MVP as well. Mm-hmm. So, and then John Birdie and Jazz is there. And, the Yankees have, and Aaron Boone. I was thinking I covered Aaron Boone as a player with the Marlins. So it's like I'd be happy for him as well. So, let me ask you this, Holly, because normally, like you say, obviously Park Avenue and, Major League Baseball, obviously LA, New York, the TV, networks, they're all thrilled to have this. But is it almost time for it? And I ask you this in this vein, because where do we live? We live in South Florida, where they've gone 130, 40%, 1,000% analytics, where they don't believe in stars. They believe the system's better than the star. And why get Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton when, Jake Berger could hit 30 homers on any given year? That type of mentality. No knock on Jake Berger, but it's like they want to sub out the star and condition the market. And more teams we see are, why do they not want stars? They don't want to pay them, So, is it almost time to be reminded that we need a Shohei Ohtani, an Aaron Judge, a Juan Soto, a Giancarlo Stanton, a Mookie Betts? We need them to kind of carry the torch to show that's the highest. We need a standard. We don't need a standard to be here. We need a standard to be there, and to aspire to be the best in the sport, aspire to do things that hadn't been done or haven't been done in 50 years, 100 years, or set new bars. And just kind of your thoughts on that.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, those are all very, very good points, with who our star players are. And even as a player who wasn't ever in that class of a Shohei Ohtani or a Mookie Betts, you're in a position where you understand your industry. I mean, the superstars or the marketable players are the ones who get the most attention. That's the game I play with so many of my friends, who call themselves, baseball. I've loved baseball my whole life, and my friends do. But you say to them, okay, who's your favorite team? Let's say the Boston Red Sox, and you say, okay, minus the two superstars, give me 5 or 7 names from the team 5 years ago. And most fans really can't do that. You know what I mean? And it's a fun
Correct.
question to ask. They identify with the superstar. They'll, 5 years from now, you'll say, okay, you could ask the question of the Dodgers. Everybody will, the first answer will be Shohei Ohtani. But where you go from Shohei Ohtani, I mean, it's, you've got other superstars on this team that I think people will remember, and it's probably easier ones for people to go to. But I mean, it's the reality of what our game has become. And it is what it is, and it's always been that way. I mean, if you go back 70 years, 75 years, you're going to, we're going to give those same answers. And we knew who the stars were. We knew who the good teams were, and we didn't always know who the 23rd, 24th, and 25th guy on the team was, so to speak. And the reality of that is that the superstars are really what everybody wants to see, but they have to have teams to play on for this all to make sense. It's we used to say that all the time. You got to have a team, you got to have a field to play on. So we got to fill out this roster somehow, even for the Shohei Ohtanis and the Freddie Freemans and the Mookie Bettses and all these these guys who are seem like they're going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. But my point is that I as a player, you love and see the value in the team at this time of year more than any other time during the year. Really, the conversation is always driven by your superstars, who's leading the league in hitting, who's got the most home runs, who's having an incredible year on the mound, all of those things that do matter. But at the same time, you love to kind of, talk about a team and a team concept and a dynasty. But that's the one thing that we've lost, Joe, is the team dynasty, so to speak. I think by definition, really, even the last little snippet of if you want to go there, is probably the San Francisco Giants, when they won 3 championships in 5 years. And I think that even most guys, even my friends, guys who I played with, conversations I used to have, at MLB Network or even, on air, we would talk about, they would question whether that was a dynasty because it was every other year. And so, are we in a position where we finally identify and actually see some of the problems that Major League Baseball is up against? I think we do. But with that being said, you still have to drive your sport around your superstars. And for you to get to the championship series and have your superstars at the forefront, it's a perfect scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's my right shoulder, but here it's left, is Tom Seaver.
Yeah.
And, I grew up in New York, but I hadn't lived really in New York for like 40 years.
Right.
But, I grew up and Tom Seaver was really kind of my first sports hero. And my son one year he ordered that, Sports Illustrated cover. And that's on my wall behind me. And it's, would I have gone into sports writing? Would I have been so into athletics if it wasn't for the Tom Seavers, people that were, Mickey Mantle was just ending his career when I was kind of knowing sports, and that kind of took me through. Then I was more of a Met fan and a Yankee fan, but clearly the Reggie Jackson Yankees and Thurman Munson and those Yankee teams. So obviously the Reds, you talk about dynasties, the Big Red Machine, doing what they did in the 70s, the Oakland A's, with 3 straight titles in the 70s. That's kind of what formed my childhood, and I was used to seeing that. It was like when the A's didn't win, that was a big deal. Think about that. When the A's didn't win was a big deal. Now the A's are in Sacramento and probably Vegas, but we're not totally 100% sure, but we know they're not in Oakland. And so I get it. It's a different generation, but like, the stars are why what attracts you to the sport, and when we kind of marginalize them or just make everything, oh, well, be happy with 81 wins, be happy with 83 wins. Oh, you almost got that 3rd wild card. It's like, but that's now being how organizations are building rosters, and it doesn't guarantee that if you get a superstar you're going to go to the World Series or even make the playoffs. But you talked about the team baseball concept, and I don't know if you saw the quote from Nick Castellanos. Obviously, the Phillies got bounced early by the Mets, but Castellanos had a walk off hit in the one win the Phillies got against the Mets, and his quote afterward was team baseball. I'm paraphrasing, is the best kind of baseball, and I knew what he meant because he's not out there thinking, "Hey, we lost today, but I hit 2 homers," or "We lost today, but I had 4 RBIs."
Right.
And too much now is being wrapped up in the individual performance, regardless of the result on the field. That's how we marginalize Luis Ariz. Oh well, so what that he won a batting title? His WAR isn't this. Well, his team probably, if the Dodgers weren't as good as they are, is probably in the World Series.
Right.
They were right there. They're not much worse than and Luis Ariz is a big reason why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people diminishing. Well, we don't like that brand of player. He doesn't check enough boxes for us. But what he means to that team and his role, and not everyone's going to be. And that's the other thing. The analytics people think you have to be that number throughout your career. Oh, you hit 350 last year. Well, it's like guys are going to play with a broken thumb, with a bad hammy, and it's not just the guys like Ariz who don't have a lot of power. It's the guys that do have a lot of power who got a little tweak, and next thing you know, their power isn't there in the postseason. I remember one time when Mike Piazza, might have been 2000 or 99, whatever it was, when the Mets played the Yankees, he in the World Series, where Piazza was kind of spent. He wasn't close to what he was in the regular season. It's a big reason why they didn't win, but injuries are part of it, and the body has to hold up, and that's why winning the title is so difficult.
It is. It's incredibly difficult. I'll just add 2 quick points to it, and of course, we certainly know who our superstars are in this World Series, and how much value they have to our sport. But it's always just an interesting conversation. You and I were talking about this just a few weeks ago. You knew this as well as I did. We didn't have to have a secret conversation, even, when Shohei Ohtani was a free agent. Like who could land him? 2, maybe 3 teams. See what I mean? Sure. Right. And so that's the problem that we're ultimately dealing with. It's not that Shohei Ohtani landing with the Los Angeles Dodgers is wrong. It's just that not everybody has access to what is right. And that's the point of where we sit today. Juan Soto is going to be a free agent, and he's had an incredible season, and this as well as I do, that there won't be a surprise team to this conversation. I know it. I mean, unless somebody steps in and says, okay, all of a sudden something's changed. We've watched the San Diego Padres do this a couple of times, certainly in recent memory, where they come up with dollars that we're not really associating with their budget. Maybe, I've already heard some rumblings and grumblings that, maybe the Washington Nationals all of a sudden are kind of got to, jump back in and be able to spend some money, or maybe even try to land, a superstar. But with that being said, I mean, that's kind of what our sport's become. And that's what has always been the problem for my entire life. I understood as a young player, even as an 18-year-old, after I was drafted, what a privilege it was to be drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers. I knew that I was kind of, I got drafted by one of the 8 teams that, consistently you say to yourself has a chance to win a World Series. And this is a first-rate organization. And this is an organization that's going to do whatever it has to do to find itself in the World Series. And, it's so interesting because I think the bar has been set so high for both of these franchises, and the expectations are what they are, that we've even heard the rumblings and grumblings about their managers, maybe potentially even, somewhat, if you want to say it, being on a hot seat, if they don't end up winning the World Series. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I mean, that's just crazy to think that that's how you're being measured, because I know that in 22 to 25 other markets, if you're measuring your manager the same way that conversation's being driven, that manager's ultimately getting fired, because that team really had no chance from the beginning, from opening day to where we sit now, that they were going to be a World Series champion, or that they should be in the World Series. And if they don't get there, this manager might lose his job. So that's what baseball really is that you have all these different types of conversations, which are fun conversations to have for us and for fans. Yeah. But it's unfortunate because we're having unbalanced conversations about our sport. And those unbalanced conversations are driven by things that are not just the performance on the field, which is what we're always clamoring for. Because you're right, injuries matter. Sustainability matters. Guys who are consistent, guys who can go out there and do it all the time. Like how predictable does it become? I was just earlier this postseason. People were talking about Mookie Betts and his struggles and the struggles that he had in the postseason. We know who Mookie Betts is. We know how talented.
Yeah, I still take my chances with him.
Right. I mean, he's amazing. He's an amazing athlete. He's an amazing baseball player, and he's had an incredible career. Now, did he have a run of bad at bats or the mind game that happens in the postseason? Sure, he did, but he's gotten past it, and now he looks like the Mookie Betts that we all identify with. But with that point, I just always say that I've said the same thing from when I was in my early 20s to here now in my early 50s. We have to find a way to make baseball matter for all 30 teams consistently. And if that's not something that we believe that we can ultimately get to, well, then this is what your conversation becomes. And so it becomes a very top-heavy conversation year in and year out.
Yeah, and we could talk about where the PA would go, whether they would ever go for all the other, the salary cap and blah, 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 which is obviously hasn't happened. And although there's a luxury cap, but what's going to happen now with the TV deals where you see, with Bally, like this is very much affecting the Marlins, very much going to affect the Rays. And, the Rays are completely with what the hurricane did to the stadium, a Tropicana Field, where they're even going to play, and what they're going to be able to retain as they try to navigate through where they're going to play in 25, and then ultimately where and if a new ballpark's going to be built for them. But when Bally's is now becoming, I think, what FanDuel, the network is like the region, and they're tearing up the Marlins. They're making about roughly whatever 50 million TV deal. They ain't going to be making that next year. They're probably a 100-loss team now for all this or that. Their viewership is not going to draw that, and so it's going to make the gap even more, which kind of plays too. I'm kind of contradicting myself. The go for the 100% analytic approach, although I know buying that because I don't really buy 100% of anything. I think you're a more balanced organization when you incorporate a lot of different views, not one mindset and one way of doing it, because the Marlins have fired their whole analytics department, so it's not all analytics are read the same way, clearly. So it's going to make it more difficult for Major League Baseball in the state of Florida, obviously, and South Florida specifically. But let me just, before we get into the prep guys, let's talk a little bit. I've heard kind of the Ohtani, Judge, kind of looking at it as that, as kind of a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, those type of. Obviously, it's if Ohtani was pitching, if this is next year, that might be a little bit different. But you kind of see it. You kind of see it where you can, because baseball sometimes it's hard to do that. But you can go Bird, Magic, Ohtani, Judge.
Well, it certainly is on paper, and certainly is why we pay attention. I think back to a couple of weeks ago, we were watching the Dodgers, and right, you say to yourself, that was a great thing about baseball. You'll always see something you've never seen before. And my sons had actually picked up on it and pointed it out to me, because I had a hard time making sense of it. But it's really how we've become and who we've become and how we've marketed ourselves. Fox will pop up that little box, at some point during the inning, and it'll say something to the effect of Ohtani hits in 3 hitters, and Ohtani will be up in 3 at bats. Like, they're already teasing Ohtani. And I think we were actually in the other half of the inning where the other team was hitting. And I don't remember exactly where it was, but I remember seeing it, and I kept thinking, boy, is that what we've become? We've got to the spot. It wasn't Freddie Free. You're not doing it for every hitter like Freddie Freeman's up next, or here comes Mookie Betts, or hey, the next, Will Smith's up, right now, and whatever. But it was like they were already teasing what's to come 3 or 4 hitters away. So, like, don't move, don't leave your TV set. And that's kind of how they were promoting it. And, you kind of understand it because of viewership, and how international certainly Ohtani is, and you get it. But at the same time, like, it also is a reflection of who we are. I've never in the NBA, we've never, Magic Johnson, went out, for a breather, and he'll be back in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? And have a little pop-up box in the lower hand corner, just in case you were thinking about, grabbing a cold beverage in the refrigerator and coming back to your television set. Don't leave, because he's coming right back in. Or your superstars left the ice. And so, hurry back, because he'll be back in right after the timeout. And I just thought it was so interesting to see, but that's it. I mean, these guys are superstars. The heavyweight fight between these two guys, it's the one thing that makes Major League Baseball so interesting is, these are two guys that we really identify with. They're superstars. They're great players. They're great power hitters, both of them. They have mistake power, as I like to say. They don't have to hit the ball off the barrel for it to get over the wall. But at the same time, they're both controllable. They're both controllable from both of these pitching staffs. And that's the one thing that ultimately will present itself. They don't have to be challenged. I think that Ohtani, because of where he hits in the lineup, can stir it up a little bit more. If in fact, you do try to avoid him at all costs, you're going to run into probably some bigger trouble. So the Yankees got to be real careful with that. Where I think Judge, you can, maybe there's a little more swing and miss with Judge. Yes, he's parked right next to Soto, but at the same time, it puts a lot of pressure on the other guys in the lineup, because that's the main objective. I mean, you're going to go into your pre-World Series meetings, and the first thing that you're going to say is, how do we control these two players and don't let them dominate? Because you don't want them to get on a run or get into a space where they're on everything and they're really impacting the game, because they're the two players that have the ability to impact the game on an incredibly high level. The best thing that happened for the Yankees when Giancarlo Stanton, we just talked about this a show or two ago, where the best thing that can happen is Stanton heats up, and next thing you know, Judge is heating up. And that's how that works. That's how the game works. That's how lineups work. And so when we saw that, we knew that they're going to have to start throwing strikes to Judge. They're not going to just be living on the edges. And if they walk them, they walk them regardless of the situation. So you force the hand of the other team. But if that starts to happen, I think that advantage Dodgers, because their lineup to me is just deeper. And I did this with a friend last night, and he was a Yankee guy. He told me the Yankees are going to win this in 5 games. And I said, okay. Well, I said, listen, I'm just going to be fair. I love how you're thinking. But we kind of went through the lineups. And I said, you just tell me who the best player is at each position. And he, we kind of got to the end of it, and he's like, dang, because in his mind, even somebody who thought the Yankees was going to win, we were sitting at 6-3. And, the Dodgers kind of seem like they have maybe the better.
They got, especially when Tommy Edmonds lights, gets
right.
That's just like completely, they have depth. I feel badly that Miguel Rojas' injury has kind of, pushed him to the, the injured list.
I looked this morning. It sounds like there was a report out that he would be on the World Series roster. Now, don't hold
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
to have him
like he's
to get in the game. Yeah, but it's like it's also, I'm a little skeptical too. If you're playing better with the roster, it's like sometimes the guy that comes back, and McKeon used to, as Jack would say back in 03, when you guys had Conine out there, and Lowell was coming back off the injury, and it was like, who's going to sit? And Jack's like, it usually sorts itself out. More times than not, he was right, because somebody else got hurt. It's like this kind of the nature of it. But again, it should be really fun, really good World Series. We'll obviously jump into more on this next episode, but I really want to kind of get into these high school guys. And Ollie, this has been a lot of fun. This past week, we had a little break in the weather, so was able to get out to the parks and see, to see some teams play. We talked about our first hitter. Let me throw him up here. This is Dylan Dubovic of American Heritage. As you can see, Dylan doesn't get cheated out of his swing, and the ball goes a really long way. And we talked about Dylan. He's a University of Miami commit, potential draft. He's senior at Heritage. He pitches as well. We broke down his pitching a couple of weeks back. This is one of 2 home runs I saw him hit. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, I like what I see. I mean, this is a young man. He's got a lot of power, and he sells out to the power. I mean, that's you see the extension. You see he uses his lower half well. There's a lot of good things to see here. I said, I got to be honest with you. I got more hung up on the bat flip than I did on the great approach, because I love everything that I see, but it's just kind of how my mind works. I'm a little bit more of an old school guy. There's quite a little bat flip at the end of this, Joe. You're doing me a favor by not finishing it off, because I mean, this is a no doubter, and I certainly get it. But I just, who I am and what I was raised to be is a little bit different than the showmanship that we see in the game today. Listen, I know everybody's got an opinion on it. I have mine. I'm certainly entitled to it, just like everybody else, because there goes the bat flip. And, listen, this young man, he's got immense power. I mean, you can see the ball off the bat really within the first 3 or 4 frames, just from the swing itself and the extension, that where this ball is going. It's ticketed for, going over the wall. And that's
it might have cleared even the light tower out there. It was
well, and what I love to see, I mean, this is he's taught himself well, and I don't, certainly don't know who his coaches are and who his hitting coaches are and who he works with. But what you do love to see is, the ability to maximize that swing. It's almost like this young man has learned the next step, and I talk about this all the time. The ability to understand how to hit first and then how to hit for power. And so, you see the leg kick, a little bit of a load on the backside, but the extension. He's got to be careful. I will say this, because when you do get that aggressive in his swing, you see how wide his legs are. He stands very tall in the box, but the farther your front foot gets out in front of your body, your top half has to come with it. So, as you see here, great extension, but you see that top half, how it's kind of starting to creep out over the left leg. That's where you got to be real careful, because the higher you get, the more velocity that you're going to see. You're going to be fighting for inches. You're going to be fighting for space. When you're going up against 95 every day, you're trying to stay on that backside as long as you can. Now, he got a pitch up in the zone. His timing was great. His front foot was down. There's great extension. Look how flat he stays through the zone. That's what I love. There's no rollover. Even as you see him finishing his swing, his hands aren't rolling over. The top hand's not across. He's kept his bat flat through the zone, which again is great. You're going to get a lot of line drives, balls up. Do just like you saw. He didn't have to work down in the zone to get the ball up in the air there. He just leveled off on a high pitch, which is always a good sign. I like to see kids who can hit elevated pitches, and you see it again right there. This is a different swing, right? This is a little bit more.
What I did with the first one was against the Cardinal Gibbons team, and that was more of a fastball. Here is against West Pines, which is West Broward. For fall ball, it's not affiliated with high school, so they technically for their league aren't the high school name. This is a kind of a sidearm guy who throws a little slower. Dylan hit second, so he kind of sized him up, and he got, I believe that was a fastball, or no, it might have been a slider he gave him, and he hung it, and he was looking to do damage. That was a first pitch home run on this one, and this one is against.
Well, you froze it in a good spot, Joe. Whether you meant to do it or not, I love it, because you froze it, and that's what you love to see right there. The strength from the backside. I mean, this young man sells out to his power, and that's what you certainly want to see. I mean, of course, he's got to maintain that power, and he's got a lot. He's got moving parts in his swing, but at this level, and certainly at the high school level, he's going to get away with that a little bit more. He's got incredible hands, which is good to see. Great bat speed. Bat gets through the zone real quick. Look at the extension, stays on the backside, finishes strong, toes pointing at the second baseman. This isn't a guy that was cheating in, looking in, stepping in the box, trying to guess he's coming in on this pitch. This is his swing, and it was about getting a good pitch to drive, and he did just that. Eyes right down the barrel. I mean, you look at this from where we're sitting and from the position that you have. I mean, it's a really, really good, strong swing and a good firm foundation. I love to see it. That stiff front leg. He's keeping that upper body back and getting great extension. So he had a couple of great swings that day, it looks like, Joe.
Yeah, it's 2 different games, 2 different days. If you see on the wall in left field, you see they have a high wall at Heritage where you see the yellow padding that goes across. It's higher, so it's not just like the 4 or 5 foot fence, and that a lot of times you'll see in high schools. That goes up. This ball was so high, it literally wedged Holly on the top of that pad, because there's like a safety net back there, because there's a track back there in the football practice field. So this wedged up there. That's where that ball ultimately landed. So He hits the light tower power applies to Dylan Dubovic, of American Heritage, who is a University of Miami recruit commit. But I wouldn't be surprised. The pros are not, like, you could see the trajectory was very, he got it. He got under that and got it pretty up in the air. But like you say, he knows his power. I mean, I've seen him hit that tower over there. I don't know if you could see my cursor here, but it goes over there. I saw him in a batting practice round, like literally hit up there. It's easy power, and that's why the pro teams are looking at him. It's like you can't teach that, Holly, right?
No, you cannot teach that, and that's the swing I like right there. I mean that the difference, right? So we're showing 2 home runs. One was a well, for me, a little bit of a ridiculous bat flip, like right there. I mean, we know who you are. We know what kind of power you've got. You do your thing and you play the game. Just I've never been a big fan of all these bat flips. Boy, they seem like they cause more trouble. But the difference.
Come on, Holly, let the kids play.
Well, listen. I'm all about it. I've said it a million different times about showing emotion. I just was raised differently by the big leaguers who were around me at that time in my life, and I certainly bought into just how the game is played and certainly respecting your opponent. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, because I think that's going a little bit too far. But the truth of the matter is, it's just when the kid on the mound feels really bad about what pitch he just threw, no matter how you slice it up, right? You just kind of got posterized, so to speak. But it's, when you see it and he comes out of the box and he just kind of drops the bat and you see him running around the bases. It's like, I've done this before and I know how to do it again. And we've talked about that a little bit this postseason. We've seen some guys do it. And to be honest with you, we haven't really seen too many bat flips, even from the big leaguers.
No. I mean, it's kind of held the course. Now, we're going to get to one kid who from West Broward, West Pines fall team, West Broward. We're going to segue over to Ethan Lindor. Mm-hmm. These 2 kids I'm showing you from West Broward are both juniors. Both are looking for opportunities, and these are really, really good players, Holly. And I'm doing my best to try to get them as much exposure and hopefully some really good college opportunities as well. Ethan is a center fielder, runs like the wind, really, really good looking player. The angles at Western High School, I don't get as much to get that completely open side because of just how it is. But just your thoughts on Ethan, who led this game off with a home run.
There we go. Yeah, again, another pitch up. So that's what we've seen. And what I love right off the top is even kind of how he presents himself. I mean, you can see that he starts with a very flat bat. The hands, there's no arch in his hands. The bat's not tall. It's very flat from his start position, which is what you like to see. He's got a nice little load, stays in, keeps the front shoulder in. You see it as the pitcher starts to deliver the baseball. He starts to set himself, which is a good presentation for where he is now. I don't think he's terribly tall, but again, great swing. Look at that.
No, he's I don't know, 5'9", 5'10". He's a junior. Right. He's like 15, maybe 16 years old.
Right. So, but again, I love to see that flat bat through the zone, and he gets out of the box and he's hustling and he knows.
Yeah, he run. And the thing is, at Western, it's a little bit smaller field, so the ball's going to go. It's going to clear the wall and more than others. But he's a difference maker. This kid, he's one of those. He gets on. He wreaks havoc. Plays a great center field. Mm-hmm. Great kid. Just a worker. And I'm pulling a lot for these as we're Dylan Dubovic's. That power's easy. The scouts see the not every high school kid's hitting the ball 420 feet, with 100 miles an hour exit velo. And I want the sport never to lose the Ethan Lindors, the Juan Pierres, the Jordan Riches from American Heritage, who we broke down. And we got to keep this alive on why these kids, are so valuable. So the power, what surprised me a little bit about Ethan is you can see that's pretty effortless swing. It's like he's not selling out for anything, but if he's able to do that, he's going to be a pretty good player somewhere.
Well, you let the homers happen, and that's just it. I mean, the idea is, and somebody said this to me early, and I had some power, at the highest level, and you start to understand. And if your mindset is, well, it's not a home run until it leaves the wall, no matter how far you hit it. Now, I had some long home runs that were by definition no doubters in my career, but I trained my brain to believe that it wasn't going out. Like, maybe there's a 25-mile-an-hour wind in right field today, and as good as that feels, it better get out, And so I was always busting it out of the box. That's really what I love so much about this is a great swing. He stays through the baseball, gets a pitch to drive early in the count. He's ready to hit, stays through it, barrels it up, sees where the ball's going, and click to the next frame. See, his head's already down, and now it's go time. Like, all right, he's already transitioned to the other part of the game. He didn't come out of the box with the mindset, all right, that ball came off the barrel. It's got a chance to go out. Now, he knows all these things in his mind. You know these things, and you're processing them as you're going. Now they're happening. They're firing. These thoughts are happening in less than a second in your head. But he's already transitioned. Look, he's one step out of the box, Joe, and this is what I love. This is what I want all players to understand. If the ball goes over the wall, the ball goes over the wall, and you get a home run. You get around first base, you break it down, it's a home run trot. We know what that is. But until that happens, this is what you should look like coming out of the box. I don't care who you are, really, whether you're Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani. I get it. I know that, that's another level. But you see my point is that even the way the ball came off the bat, there was just a minimal amount of, well, I don't want to use the word doubt because I don't think it's doubt, but if the ball stays in the yard, I want the extra base. Meaning, if I come out and I watch it, hey, listen, I should probably get a double out of it, right? Hits off the wall, bounces back in, or whatever the case may be, I should get a double. But my mindset, I always tried to maintain the mindset, well, then I want 3. And if that means me getting out of the box within 2 steps and getting up to maximum speed and flying around the bases, I'm going to give myself a chance for a triple. That's how I love to see my kids play this game. And this young man right here, Ethan, is showing that right away. He knows he squared this baseball up. He knows that he's got a chance to hit the ball out of the yard. But within 2 steps, his head's down, and he's trying to get to maximum speed as quickly as possible so that he can get around the bases and set the table for his team. That's what you want to see consistently. And when you get that in players, they start to buy into who they are, what they are, and what they're supposed to do. And we're all different. We're not all home run hitters. And in fact, most players are not home run hitters. Let's be honest. Home runs are special moments in our lives. And that's when they happen. Very few of us can do what Aaron Judge does or Shohei Ohtani and hit so many of them that it becomes ordinary. And you see him just flying around the bases, even in this small frame that you've got here. I mean, he's maybe 10 feet outside the batter's box, but we know he's already up to maximum speed, and that's what you love to see. So good setup, great swing, great approach, even after he loses the bat. And that's what I love to see.
Yeah, and you can almost see here he's almost knowing that he's got to make that turn at first to go to second. So he's even in these steps, I can see he's already plotting his distance to get around the base, not to go through the base, obviously. He knows it's in the gap. He's played at this field many times, so he knows that he's got the ball in the gap. He knows he's got at least a double with hustle and more if it clears the wall. And the thing also is, because it's not super far, if he's not hustling, if he's coasting, he could get thrown out at second. So, so I give him, that's the guy who knows they played in the districts before. I don't think they're in district this year, but they have been. But he's played on this field. He knows how it is. He plays center field, so he knows what the outfield dimensions look like. And all of that, you're right, all within 3-4 steps. He's made a lot of decisions and all good ones.
Yeah, I got a piece of advice early in my career, and I loved it, and it really helped me with my game, and it certainly helped me with my tenacity, the tenacity that you play this game with, and the heart and the desire, and the I want to be good. I want to be great at this game. I want to keep playing it. When I was in high school, and it's a really simple phrase, Joe, and it's interesting because I think that if every kid bought into this very simple phrase, it would change their perspective of how the game truly is supposed to be played from the minute the first pitch is thrown to the last out, is assume nothing. Assume nothing. And if you play with that mentality, you can't assume it's going to go out. You can't assume it's going to get through the hole. You can't assume he's going to catch it. You can't, don't assume anything. play your game. And if you play with that mentality, you really do put yourself in a better position not to screw things up or to assume, well, I hit it over the wall, so I should get into my home run trot, and then ultimately get embarrassed as the center fielder plays it off the wall and throws a strike
and do this to your coach.
You're sitting at
Yeah.
first. And
you could so what I was talking about, you could see Holly here. He's already getting on the grass.
He's not assuming anything, right? He knows.
Yeah, he's already boom. You see his right foot hit the grass. He's already knowing that he's going to hit first aggressively, make his aggressive turn, and be on his way. There he goes. That right foot hit the grass there. And again, Ethan Lindor, if anyone around the country is looking for a really good player, colleges, take note. And our last one, this guy, I love this kid. He's a catcher, Manuel Sarcos. Holly, this clanks off the scoreboard. he like last year, he had about 5 or 6 homers, and he gave some epic bat flips. And I said, "Where's your bat flip?" And he goes, "No, I can't do that no more." He goes, he's basically the other coaches are yelling at him too much. And I'm like, yeah, you don't want to some college get mad at you. So, but again, a catcher with easy power on the pull side, junior as well, looking for opportunity. We'll do some defense because I have something up on the site of him making a really cat-like quickness play against Heritage on a bunt, and he was out there in a flash and threw the kid out at first. Mm-hmm. But your thoughts on Mr. Sarcos?
Well, good swing. Very short, very compact. I was kind of watching his load. He doesn't have much of a load. But again, you can see in his posture, just kind of that, a little bit of a rocking back to the backside with his lower half. No separation with his hands. He keeps his hands very still. Yes, they're moving a little bit, but he's not loading with his hands. You don't see his hands creeping away from his body. That's good. That keeps the swing short. So he load. I was a leg loader, and so I really firmly believed in that, because as I started to deal with more and more velocity, getting into the minor leagues, and then you make your way to the big leagues, you start to realize the longer your swing gets, the more trouble you get in, and that's what I love. That's the first thing that I see right there. The lower half is strong. I mean, this is a kid who's he's a catcher, and most catchers really do possess that strong lower half, good hip action, good upper body action, but that short, compact swing. So, I mean, he's just letting his power play, and that's what I love to see. He's not trying to generate more power, or I need to hit the ball. I can hit the ball 425. Now I need to try to hit it 427. That mindset where it's like, okay, I got to add more. Because when we continue to tell ourselves, I need to add more, I need to be more, we tend to lengthen out our swing, and we tend to swing harder or try to swing harder. And what you end up doing is actually slowing yourself down, and you end up causing problems for yourself. So I love to see kind of his hand action. It's that swing. Like if you don't capture it like you did, Joe, in that short little frame, he's through the zone so fast that you can almost miss the swing, because the swing path is so short to the ball. And that's what you love to see. This is going to produce. He's going to get hits. He's going to put the barrel on the ball an awful lot, because he just takes his hands right to the baseball. He's simplified it. And that's what you love to see. I always talk about that first step, right? Learn how to hit for power. That comes after you learn how to hit consistently. And he has been raised right. I love to see that short, compact swing, which is just taking your hands to the ball. The ball's up in the zone a little bit. He levels off. Boom, quick. Oh, actually, it's up. Shoot, it's at his letters. And he just levels off on that high pitch. And, of course, he's going to drive it over the wall. That's what you do. That's what a level swing will do. You don't have to try to lift the pitch that's up in the zone. All you have to do is be level to it. And if you're on time, the ball's going to go, really, for anybody, whether it's a kid who's 5'9", 150 pounds, or 6'2", 225. You get to that ball right there, you're going to drive it. You're going to put the barrel on it, and it's going to jump off the bat. So really good approach, really short swing. I love what I see. He needs to maintain that. I was telling my son just this the other day. He's been swinging the bat really, really well. Things are going good for him. He's seeing the ball. This is where you practice your consistency. We get in that nature as hitters a lot of times where you're doing things right, and you're like, okay, how can I do more right? And I kind of just talked about this a few seconds ago, but I'll bring it back up again just because I kind of want to drive home the point. The idea is that when you're in a good spot and you're seeing the ball really, really well, you're actually taking less batting practice. You shouldn't be in the cage for an hour. You shouldn't be doing these things. Your swing's in a good spot. It's about maintenance. It's about maintaining those good thoughts, that good approach, and the consistency of your swing. And that's really where you want to get to, because the more that you're in that zone where it's like, okay, you come in, you take your swings prior to the game, you get yourself ready, then you're ready to go. Then you can just kind of let your mind play the game, let your body, do what it's supposed to do, catch up, let your swing be what it is, and know that you're going to get those good results. That's the happy spot in this game when you're as a hitter, is when you know that you're going to show up to the yard a couple hours before the game and that you're going to put some good swings on the baseball today. There's no doubt. And that's where I was always trying to get to. And that's where we were always, as big leaguers, trying to get to, even when you were doing this every day, 162 times a year, was riding out those hot streaks, riding out that good, I'm seeing the ball well, it's coming in, short and simple. I would jump in the cage for 5-10 minutes and then that's it. I don't need to be in the cage for an hour. You don't need to be over swinging, because what you tend to do is exactly what I said, is that, well, I'm swinging the bat really well, and I feel like, I can hit a ball 425, and you start searching for 427. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what can I do to hit it just a little bit farther? That's kind of a big no-no, and I don't see that in his swing. So I like the approach. I just would love to see him maintain it, keep it ready, and get ready to go, because I would be willing to bet that swing produces a big season for him.
Yeah, he's a talent. And the thing, Holly, my first reaction when he hit it was I thought he got it more towards the end of the bat. That just goes to show how strong he is.
Yep.
Well, I don't even think he fully got it. And obviously I have to mute the sound, because otherwise we'd hear the sound while Holly's breaking down the swing. So I mute that. But and Holly got it, you could hear the ball clank off the scoreboard,
right,
which is kind of funny. It's just kind of that he hits it. He probably knows it's gone. And then all of a sudden 3 seconds later you hear, like it hit a big thing.
And I enjoyed the videos that you joke, everybody, we go through these, we look at these videos, and of course we're some of this I do my best to try not to look at too much, because I like to really give my initial thought, and my initial thought happens when I see it for the first time. So I'll try to watch it just so Joe's not blindsiding me with anything. So I don't want to see something that I didn't see, but I don't want to watch it too many times. But there was one common denominator really with all these swings, but there was a great mom in the stands who was yelling the exact same way in all these videos, which I thought was absolutely great. Every one of these great swings that we were seeing, there was that, like the scream just started as the ball was coming off the bat, and then there was this
they go nuts. The parents go nuts.
But it was a very identifiable, very unique voice that I kept hearing, and I kept thinking, well, that is a very happy mother.
You probably could hear some of those on the condensed games I have. Again, I'm very mindful to get the curse words out. That's why you may have a video. And at Heritage, you're right above the players. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is you don't want to give their strategies away and such. But you also want to hear the crack of the bat. I just wish the kids wouldn't be like the first reaction or after 3 seconds dropping curse words and such, which is kind of, what we have to deal with in the editing process. And I don't want to pay copyright stuff and lose any monetization with putting music over all the videos. So we're authentic here on Man on Second and Hitting with Holly. And we kind of call it as we see it. Holly, let's kind of wrap it up. This is a good one. A little advice to the prep players as they're kind of, either full swing in their fall season or wrapping it up. What should these guys this time of year be working on?
Well, when you've found those good swings towards the end of fall, I think it's always important to remember them. Your memory is as vital to your success as just playing the game. We say, okay, let's get out there and play. And that's the value in fall ball. I certainly get it. Some kids are playing football. Some kids are like, no, I'm fully committed to baseball. At this moment in time, you just really want to get yourself to those good memories, those good swings, the things that went right. And then you start to duplicate them. Make sure you take a break. I also throw that in. I was telling a couple of dads last night this exact same thing. Baseball is a great game. It's a mentally tough game. It's a game that's not always easy to play, even in high school. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that goes through your mind. There's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of processing that you have to. Make sure you take a break. It's the fall. The season's right around the corner, but it still is a couple of months away. And the idea is that yes, you want to be working and you want to be working productively, but don't work just to work. Make sure you take a break. Make sure you let your mind kind of calm down, maybe watch a little baseball, watch some football, take a little bit of a break, and then kind of crank it back up again. But always be aware of the success that you had. And I always found it, challenging. This is one thing that I used to try to practice. And, when I would get to the end of a major league season, whether it was September or the playoffs or whatever the case may be, I would always grab and try to get them on VHS tapes. That's how old I am. We weren't even to DVDs yet. But my point is that you wanted to remember those good moments, because those good moments for yourself, they do inspire you. They inspire your mind. What did I do right? You felt the click of the bat, the ball off the barrel, the front foot down on time, the top half staying behind, on that backside and getting through on a great swing or a tough pitch. Those are things that you want to remember, and those are things that you want to build on as you enter the season, because they're very positive memories. That's what you want to fill your head with as you start to get into your spring practice and everything starts to kind of crank back up again. But again, prior to that, make sure you do take a break, then kind of reload those swings in your mind and you're processing, even in the outfield, even in the infield, whatever defensive position you play, even for pitchers, really. You kind of apply the same principle year in and year out. And what I used to do is I would get to the end of the season, obviously take a break, really, hone in on family and not think too much about everything that's going on in the baseball world. But as I would start to crank back up again, start filling my head with good, positive thoughts, things that make sense, things that where I had success the last time I was on the field, because it's the freshest memory you have. I've always believed it's like, your career is like this one long journey, but it's the same journey. It's not this up and down. And yeah, you're going to have good seasons and bad seasons, but the dots always seem to connect. And I always remembered this about myself, which was always so interesting, because you think, well, if you took 2 or 3 months off and you put the bat back down and you didn't do anything in between that, in between the last time you hit and the next time you're getting ready to hit, how would you pick up the bat the next time? And of course, you tend to pick it up the way that you laid it down, if that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining it well. Yeah. But it's the swing that you just left off on. So, and again, we're always kind of, tinkering with our swing. Am I going to go with a little higher elbow now? Am I going to stand a little taller in the box? Am I trying to make an adjustment? Don't make adjustments just to make adjustments. Kind of keep the narrative going. It's your story. It's your swing. It's your career. And if you're having success here in the end, here at the end, and we're seeing some of these home runs and these great swings, these are the swings that you want to pick back up again as we get into, December and January, and we start our seasons down here in South Florida.
Great advice, and a great place to wrap this one up. Again, it's great insights. We're going to keep bringing you. I'm really glad that the weather's kind of abided where we could get some of these games in, so we could get these videos out to you. And we're going to just keep building that. We'll look into how the World Series is next week. We'll update that as well. With everyone, again, please like, subscribe, comment, and we're making the rounds. We're growing this here. And the Hitting with Holly podcast is going really well.
Before we jump off, hold on. Who do you got? Dodgers, Yankees. How many games? Who's winning?
Well, I think the Dodgers in 6. I'm kind of wanting the Yankees to win, though. So, but if I had so I kind of think the Dodgers. I'm hoping for 7. 7. You want to see, that's where the memories will be there. And I'm sure you got LA in about the same, right?
I do. Yeah, it's funny. Well, that's why I wanted to ask you, because I wanted to see if you and I were thinking alike. I've got the Dodgers. Yeah. That was my response. Dodgers in 6.
Dodgers. Yeah. So, but if they're going to throw bullpen games, I mean, it's they can't do that.
I'll bet they're off.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And we know this. It will come down to how the bullpens perform, and that's for both teams as well. And with this break, there'll be no excuses. So, and we make no excuses here. We give you all the hard-hitting stuff, and we don't really hold back. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to Todd Hollandsworth, Hitting with Holly. We're going to grow this, and it's going to have a lot of fun. And with that, we will catch everybody in the next video.